Welcome everybody to Woo Woo Mama's podcast. I'm Colleen Carlson here with my friend and colleague Gina and we have on for a second time. We have on Natasha Sol, and we are here to talk about Natasha's new book called The Way of Energy Alchemy. And this book just came out, right? Just like a couple of months ago.
It was released on ebook June last summer, and then yes, a couple of months ago it came out on paperback.
Yes.
And there may be an Audible version coming out soon if I get enough requests.
Okay, cool. And
Yeah.
the voice?
Most likely.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
You have a nice soothing voice. So
It does, right?
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
So before we started, I want to say to our audience, before we started, we were talking a little bit about, how each one of us, and this will speak to those of you who are watching, each one of us, has our journey. We have our soul journey. We have our history. We have our trauma. We have our future too, right? And we have our present. And along with that, we each speak a language. I'm not talking about, our nationality, and I'm not even talking about a spiritual or a light language, which we may speak those as well. But we each bring with us knowledge and a way to communicate. And so this book, I don't know if you could see it, it's chock full of not only information, but it's written in a way that is concise, it is clear, everyone will understand it. And I love at the end when you speak to the naysayers, because we know as woo-woo mamas, there's naysayers, right?
Always.
Right.
Always.
Always.
And a lot of times in our own selves.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I believe
that's a good point.
I'm my greatest skeptic, really.
Wow.
Yes.
So,
and
yeah.
you know what? We are too, because Gina and I talk a lot, and we're colleagues still, even though I live in a different state now, but we will say, like, can you believe that this happened? We still marvel. Can you
Right.
believe that the spirit guided us with this? Can you believe? We still go, oh my
We
God.
do. How many times are we texting back and forth?
Totally
It's true.
in awe of it. And I think for me, I'll speak for me, that keeps me humble, because then I know that it's a state of grace that I've entered in, and that it's a privilege, and I'm honored to be in that space.
Yeah.
So maybe give us a little bit of background, or, just a little bit of your story for the listeners, and then how you got to the book.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I'm so thrilled to be with you ladies both. Again, thank you so much. This, as I said earlier, just makes my heart sing to make this connection. And when I jump in, I just want to stick with the thread that you just opened up with, Colleen, that, I felt like it was important to acknowledge that inner skeptic in us all, to give it voice, because as we understand and we are well aware of and have experienced, there comes at times this what would be labeled as toxic positivity, where we just don't want to like listen to that. And I feel like that's part of the authenticity of this work. We can't, there's many spiritual teachers that talk about how we can't know what we want unless we know what we don't want.
Yeah.
And that's part of working the law of polarity that I talk about in the book, is understanding the contrast. And so it was important. It was important to put that in there, those questions, the naysayers, because we all have our own naysayer inside that's saying, I'm too old, it's too hard, whatever it is, we have those voices within ourselves. And so it's like, let's honor them. Let's acknowledge them so that they're not driving that false evidence appearing real.
Yes.
Because the more
Yeah.
we ignore them, the louder they become, right? So that's why I wanted to put that in there, which all began with, as I was saying earlier off camera, is that this all started with a dark night of the soul. It was a year ago, almost quite a year. I'm not really sure the exact date that we had our previous podcast, which was lots of fun. And yeah, it was at that time that I went through a dark night of the soul that served as an impetus for the writing of this book. So there it is. It was like this journey. I found myself living the hero's journey as I was tracking things like events in my life. I was like, wait, this feels really familiar. And I'd studied the hero's journey many times in the past. And I was like, this feels familiar. So I went back to that. And sure enough, I was like, oh, I'm doing the hero's journey. This is a dark night of the soul, and I could watch what was coming next and the next and the next. And so this book wouldn't have happened without that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I want to encourage those who are watching, who are listening, if you're going through a dark night of the soul, that's what this book is all about. It's all about embracing the contrast as a means of expansion to get to where you want to be.
Yes.
So that you can move past that.
And Colleen and I have both, we every day we meet with people who are going through the dark night of the soul or have just gone through the dark night of the soul. But I'm finding with so many people, just like your book, beautiful things happen at the end. Like there is light at the end of the tunnel. You might not be able to see it when you're going through it, but when it happens, it's kind of like that butterfly emerging from the cocoon, right?
Right. Not only is there light at the end of the tunnel, but there's someone out there and picking up. There's someone out there that there's not only light, dear heart, but the light there is glorious. So just allow yourself to relax in that knowing that the light is glorious and it will surround you. Have that faith. Move into faith. Have faith that you will get through the tunnel. You will come out on the other side and you will be embraced with all of the glory of going through that.
I feel
Anyway,
that.
that just came in.
Yeah. That just came in. That was powerful. That made my face tear up.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. And one of the things that I learned to do through understanding myself through this whole spiritual process, because it's a process and there's so much, you just never stop growing. But the one thing I was able to do was to really, truly step into my faith more. And it's not that I didn't have it before, I did. But, I always say that we spend all these years preparing. We talk about our faith, whatever it may be, however you're raised. We talk about our faith, even as a kid, I was sent to, Sunday school or, church school, religious school, we're learning about it. And you spend all these years, but when things happen, somehow we don't know how to use all of those tools we've been given. And all that advice, all this, you gotta trust your faith. Well, it's this process that has truly made me understand what it really truly is to step into your faith. Because when I tell you that I release everything, and I'm like, and it doesn't mean I don't go through a bad time. We all do, but I know how to manage it. And when I say that I literally just surrender myself, I feel free And I know in my heart, everything's going to land where it's supposed to.
Mhm.
So I don't
Yes.
worry.
Yes.
It causes me less worry and
Right.
angst, and it's healthier.
Right. Right. I have an analogy. May I share an analogy that just recently came to
Yeah.
me? A few nights ago, I had a dream. My daughters were present in the dream, but the important thing is we were in some sort of transportation pod. It was very futuristic, but it was like we were sitting inside a bubble, like a hard shell bubble. And the way you control this bubble is by I kept telling my daughters because they were freaking out. They were like, "Oh my God, we're going to crash." Because they didn't know how to drive the bubble. And I told them, I kept repeating to them, lean into the float, lean into the float, because we were in this bubble and we're all floating inside this little capsule, the sphere. And when we would relax, and like when we are floating in the water, when you
Yes.
relax and you allow the water to hold you,
Yeah.
that's what it felt like. It felt like the
Mm.
surrender that you're speaking of, Gina, of like
Yes.
surrendering into that presence that will hold you, that will suspend you in support. And it's like, so that's been sticking with me, like lean into the float, lean into that awareness that we're being held.
Yeah.
We're
You
being
know,
held through every event, every occurrence. Absolutely.
Yeah.
it's really interesting. I just want to share an experience that I had because like it came like right. I'm like, oh my God, this sounds exactly like what I experienced. Back when I was in college, at our church, we had a healing priest come. Okay. And I've never been to one before. My parents were like, oh, we're going to go. Do you want to come? I was raised Roman Catholic. We have these things that, that come through our church. And so my mom, so you know how people go down when the healing priest comes near you, some people go down. Well, my mom was so like it's typically her. She gets so apprehensive because she didn't know what to expect, and so nothing happened with her. Like she didn't go down, and I said, well, you were too tense, you didn't just. And I wanted to experience it. Of course I did, right? So when I stepped up there, he wasn't at me. I just relaxed my body, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so ready for this. And before he could even get to me, I started going down and they had to get me. So you would think when you're going down, and those are like marble floors in our church, when you're going down, you're going to hurt yourself.
Right. Right.
I felt like I was a feather. I could
Mhm.
feel the energy bowling over me, and it's almost like I could see the rings of
Mhm.
energy. I don't know how to explain that, but I know what I saw. And I felt so lightweight that if nobody caught me, I don't think I would have hurt myself.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's reminded me of what you just
Mhm.
said.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that reminds me
We've
of,
all got stories.
of
Yeah,
something,
totally.
yeah, of something that happened to me recently, and Gina knows this. Gina was on the phone with me the day before we moved into this house. Um, I was carrying a whole bunch of groceries. We were staying down the street at an Airbnb. My husband was here at the house painting or doing something, and he didn't have his phone on him. I had the car. We have one car. And I came back from the grocery store because I was getting all prepared to bring the groceries to our new refrigerator, to our, all of that. And so I got out of my car and I'm heading into the Airbnb. And I had to just put the groceries in the refrigerator and run and pick up my husband. And the stairs of the Airbnb, there was just one step, but it was like a long platform and they were like flagstone stairs. And my sandal caught on it and I fell. I mean, literally, like I was like this and I fell like that. I mean, there was no, I didn't bend my body, nothing. what I think saved me, and when I say saved me, I mean like in the practical sense, literally saved me, was that I had my backpack in front of me and all my grocery bags, because I'm one of those people, I need to bring everything in the house all at once, right? True Sag, let's hurry up, get it over with, get it done.
Let's get this done.
Let's get this done. And I fell um and I had my sunglasses on, and I fell so quickly, boom, like that, that I didn't even really know what happened. But just as I was about to smash my head on the stone, I felt four arms come across my chest. Now, they didn't stop me from falling, but they stopped me from getting seriously hurt. I probably
Mm.
would have cracked my skull, because we're talking, I'm almost 6 feet tall. We're talking from standing to
Yeah.
falling. There was no bending,
Mm.
there was no protection. I couldn't use my arms. My arms were underneath me. And I felt this, and I didn't know it at the time, because I called Gina right away, and she was keeping me awake just in case I had a concussion. And, she's in New York and I'm in New Mexico. This is my girl
This
who's
is how we
saving my
help
life.
each other.
This is, you know, and because I can't get a hold of my husband. Um, and so I didn't even know that had happened. I didn't remember it until later on when I processed it. But I remember what you described in that moment where I was being held right before I mean, I broke my glasses, I hit my head, I was bleeding, all of the things happened. But in that moment, it was surrender. I had to physically in the 3D, I had to. There was no, I couldn't even decide. There was no time. But something was holding me, and like you, Gina, um, and like your dream, even, Natasha, it was like for just those few seconds, I had just given myself over to it.
Yeah.
And so within the framework of this surrender and leaning into it, can we segue into what energy alchemy is?
Absolutely, absolutely. Great segue. Yes. Um, Although I want to say that the energy alchemy is more like an application. It's
Yeah.
definitely,
Mhm.
you know, it definitely has that element of surrender to it, but it's more like this conscious application, I would say. Where the surrender comes in, it's just that knowing that you're being held.
Hmm.
Whereas the energy alchemy is you're being more active.
Yeah. So
It's
a
not like
participant.
yeah, it's not like you're taking it on and you're not surrendering. You're just kind of adding your own flair to it, your creativity.
Hmm.
It's like you're finely tuning what it is that you want to experience. Because we can surrender to what comes, but that's not necessarily why we're here. We're
Right.
here to be co creators,
Yes.
we're here to be conscious creators. So it's like, yes, there are times when we just allow ourselves to let go and fully, freely surrender into divine sourced orchestration. And then there are times when we're being more active, we're interacting with what the elements are in the physical reality and in our awareness so that we can direct more our path in
Yeah.
alignment with the timeline that we want to experience. Does that make sense?
It
It
does,
does.
because if you think about it, I mean, I truly believe in the I am, right? And so I
Mhm.
believe that I am God, and
Yeah,
God is within me, and I am God, and you are God as well. And so God is the ultimate creator, right? So we have that source available to us. So, right, we don't lay down.
Right.
We don't just put our hands up in the air and go, oh, well, whatever life has,
Right,
right?
right.
That actually is a very new agey kind of. I remember when I was younger, it was like, hey, whatever, go with the flow, man,
Oh, yeah. The
right?
go with the flow phrase. Oh, I just go with the flow. It's
Yeah,
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay,
really? My
let
husband.
me know how that's going to work for you.
Yeah, and I love the water and the river analogy. My husband used to be a C1 paddler, which, rapids, right? In a canoe, okay? He couldn't go with the flow. I mean, if he went with the flow, he'd be dead, right?
Right,
So,
right.
so if we use that, it's like, and that's really what life
Yeah.
feels more like,
Yeah.
a rapid that we
Mhm.
have to try and, okay, well, what do I navigate? Um, yeah, and it is practical, and that's why I love it. And you can tell.
Yeah. Lots of notes. Natasha, from some of the pages that I was looking over, this is like, to me, it's another way of, instead of using the word manifesting. Okay, that's like the big buzzword now. So I feel like what you're saying is, in order to get what we want, and we have to, like, by putting the work in, we have to take action. Like, it has to be actions that we're consciously doing, because I know that's
Absolutely.
how it is with manifesting. Like, it's not just about, okay, write down in your journal what you want, write
Right,
a mantra, write what it is you want to bring into your life, and you write it down, because people think that they write it and, like, okay, when is it
right,
coming?
right. That's where
And
that mentality of, okay, I'm just going to surrender it to the universe.
yeah, like, saying
Mhm.
it, people think that saying it, doing
Yeah,
it, okay, well, I said it today, I did it today. If you're not feeling it here, if
right,
you're not envisioning it, if you are not taking actions with, yes, the action might be the writing, or, the meditation, bringing in what you want, but it's also doing things that are going to make it happen for you. Like, people
right,
just want
right,
everything so easy, and it's not. I always
right,
say that manifesting is so easy. It's hard, because you have to feel it in your heart. You have to envision it in your brain. And if you're not actively engaging daily with what you're doing with
right,
those
mhm,
actions, it's going to kind of fall by the wayside.
right. Well,
And Natasha
I'm
has,
gonna, oh, go ahead,
yeah, no, I
Connie.
was just gonna say, and Natasha has, for the people who are listening and watching, she actually has steps. These steps are pretty much what Gina just said.
No.
I mean, seriously, okay. They are, but like I was saying before, we come with our own experiences. And so the way that you have put this down is, in my mind, such a beautiful guide, a simple guide, and I feel in my spirit a foolproof guide, because you give examples of people you've worked with. Um, and that's the other thing. We haven't really even said what you do what you do daily. I mean, I know we're kind of like all over the place, but maybe like, if you want to just sort of go wherever you want to go right now, because I feel like
Oh, okay. Well, I consider myself more of an energy practitioner.
Mhm.
I don't really ascribe to the term healer as a label, because I I feel like the healing comes through me as an observer.
Mhm.
I'm observing the healing that comes through.
Yes.
And so that's why I consider myself like a practitioner, or I tell my clients a lot that I'm a translator. I'm just observing, I'm receiving the information, and then I'm translating it into a form that we can understand, because understanding is a form of energy work. When we get
Yeah.
understanding, it's a vibration that we begin to resonate with, and then we receive clarity, and then we're able to move past energy blocks, which blocks, I address this in my book. Energy blocks aren't blocks at all. They're a repeating pattern. of energy. And it feels like a block because it keeps repeating.
I like
But I
that.
wanted to go back. Thank you. I wanted to go back to what Gina was saying is that manifestation is hard. I'm going to challenge you, dear heart, on that because that is a thought form that it is hard. And really what it is, it's just an application. It's an unpracticed application. And the reason why it feels hard is because it's unpracticed. It's really quite simple. It's quite easy to get that flow after we've removed the programming. Now, the programming part can be a little tricky because it's usually something we've practiced over years and years that's based on a trauma, you know, that everyone has trauma.
Right.
Yep.
We all have trauma. So usually those are the programs that are based on those traumas, and it's creating that loop. I refer to it in my book as the cause reaction feedback loop. So we have this loop that is fed by thought forms, by belief patterns, programs based on trauma that creates this certain perspective on things. And it feels like we're stuck. We're stuck. And in a way we are because we're looping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But what I like to bring to the table regarding all of this is that the asking, you know, there are teachers that talk about ask and it is given. A lot of the times we don't ask because we don't believe.
Yeah.
We don't ask because it will require us to step out of our comfort zone.
Yeah.
Now that is the hard part. That is the hard part, is the disbelief and the stepping out of the comfort zone.
Well, I think for
Because
some
fear,
people too, it's also about not feeling worthy. Like,
absolutely,
yeah, I think
absolutely,
there's like,
yes,
what people don't
yeah,
feel worthy
mhm,
of being able
right,
to ask for something. And
right,
that's like
and
you
that,
said, that's a program, that's a loop program.
yep, and that's part of that disbelief, right? Of, well, I believe, or the disbelief of not receiving because I believe I'm unworthy to receive whatever it is I'm wanting.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I'm getting to a point here that because of what we're facing collectively, globally, especially in the United States right now, we're being called. There's a huge calling right now for us to, especially as leaders, and I consider the three of us leaders of consciousness. We're being called to step out of our comfort zone and begin to present this new way of being as energy alchemist, of being that very devoted participant of co-creation, of like saying, okay, source, I'm here, use me. What's next? I would like to go this direction. I'm going to do this. I'm trusting that you're going to meet me. You're going to give me the resources I need because that's where we are in our state of evolution in human consciousness. And I want to emphasize, it's so important right now because of what's coming down the pike.
Yeah.
We need to understand ourselves. And I talk about this in the book is we need to understand the power of our inner authority and the presence of our divine sovereignty. Because when we understand that, we're able to move into that place where we will be able to communicate and commune with our galactic community, because open contact is right around the corner, you guys. And our sun is elevating the frequencies on planet Earth. There are many, many beings stepping forward that are confirming this, and pretty much in a very benevolent, loving way, telling us we need to get our act together. We need to start stretching out of our comfort zones and living to our greatest potential. I told my daughter the other day, you know, in a way, maybe owe isn't the most accurate term, but we owe our creator to live to our greatest potential. Not that our creator is going to hold us to that debt, you know, but in a way, we kind of owe it to creator to live to our greatest potential. And I think that's what we're being called forward to do.
Wow.
I I believe that. I know that's true intrinsically. And I've always known it's true. I don't know how the two of you, I've always felt that I was here for that. Um, in particular. I love the way you said devoted. We are devoted participants as co-creators. And there have been signs for some people I know and for myself, um, where light beings and different things have been coming through. Again, that happened to me when I was a child, and it's resurfacing. So I know as a confirmation that I'm getting that, and I know of others who are getting that as well. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've had the past few years have been sort of like the rehearsal. Not no more than that. It's like the final rehearsal.
Mm.
And now it's
Yeah.
game time. It's like it's game time. It's happening. It's
Yeah.
happening. We are in it.
And it's not
And
really a secret anymore because I feel
no,
like, I mean, this is not something that you don't have to dig into some, conspiracy theorist files.
right,
This
right.
is right out in the open. They're
Yeah.
talking about it. And, I'm going to be honest, I've never thought of it in a galactic type of way. I always see it in a spiritual way,
Mhm.
but I'm always open to learning and understanding.
Mhm.
And the more that's coming out, I'm like, there's so much more to this.
Oh, there's
I'm
so much
seeing
more.
it, I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't know about you, and I don't even know if it has anything to do with this. I understand there's solar flares. I don't want to sound, unintelligent here. There's solar flares, but how many times have we seen the aurora borealis? In
Right.
its glory in upstate New York or wherever you're from. Like, for years, I'm 55. I've never
Mhm.
seen it before. So I feel like it's more than just whatever the energy is doing in the atmosphere. I feel like there's a little more to that.
Right. Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought that up, Gina, because what I'm seeing is that people are awakening not only to their greatest potential on a spiritual aspect and a personal one, expanding. And this just recently came to myself is that no, we're being asked to live to our greatest potential as a galactic citizen. There's
Mhm.
a whole
Oh.
galaxy out
Ooh.
there.
Me too, girl. Woo!
It's like there is a whole galaxy out there, especially for people like us who have this awareness. We're going to be the ones they come to, sweethearts.
Hmm.
Those of us who are awake, who've been studying this, who've been doing our work, who've been healing our traumas, clearing our karma as best as we could. It's going to become less of an excavation and more of a just being present with that creation.
Mhm.
You know, up until now, we've just been excavating all of our blocks, right, to where we want to get to where we want to be.
Mhm.
But now it's time for us to be like, okay, I'll do what's necessary in that area, but I'm done with that. Okay. I'm done with excavating all of the blocks. whatever, the traumas, whatever it is, I'm done with that. And now I'm moving more into this active participant of creation. Where do I want to go as a participant of a galactic community? Beginning with my home planet, and then just opening up my awareness. Like, how does that translate to our galaxy, to the universe, to making that connection with others? Because it's going to happen. It's like they're knocking on the door almost. It's like they're walking down the street about to knock on the door. And I mean, it's in the media.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. It's all over the
Like
media.
people are
And I
acknowledging it
feel like
all
they're
the time.
slowly trying to sensitize people to it.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why I felt the need to publish this book, is to help people get beyond their blocks so that they can open up themselves. First of all, activate their inner authority, like tune into that, feel it, be it, live it. Because we've been programmed for eons away from that inner authority, and start to use that inner authority through discernment to cultivate these things in our own lives, on our planet, and then further into the galaxy. Because, I mean, think about, Gina, you were saying, it's no secret. It's no
Yeah.
secret about, manifestation and consciousness. But think about a few years ago. I mean, there was a group, like people like us knew about it, but it's become mainstream.
Oh, yeah.
This whole
Absolutely.
awareness of like ascension. I mean, there have been so many people that have
Yep.
awakened over just the past 4 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
The
It's,
the
yeah. These
evolution
last
has
4 years,
been
I've
sped up.
seen a huge,
Yeah,
huge
yeah.
spike. And
And that's why we see people. I wrote this in my notes. That's why we see such a huge correlation, or people making the connection between physical reality and spiritual, the spiritual application. That's why we see the increase in somatic
oh,
modalities.
yes. Yes. Yep.
People are becoming more aware of themselves as energy beings, of like
Yep.
sovereign divine energy beings. We're seeing more aware, like the EMDR,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
that
Yep.
is really popular now. Joe Dispenza, a few years ago, like Joe Dispenza, like wasn't a thing. And
Yeah.
now every time everyone's like, almost, I don't know, probably once a month, I meet someone who is doing Joe Dispenza's work,
Yeah.
and it's just
I
like,
have the
wow.
whole 369 series, all the books, and one of them is specifically geared towards gratitude, which I know you talk about in
Yes.
your book. And
Yeah.
it's probably one of the most important words in
Oh, totally,
manifesting your best life.
totally, totally. It's part of that feeling, the feeling that you're describing, Gina, about, you know, and I talk about this in the book, the difference between wanting and feeling, or think that we want something.
Right.
Like we get this ideal of like, oh, I want to do this with my life, or I want to be this,
Yep.
or I want to have this, but we don't really feel it. But gratitude is part of it's one of the highest frequencies in the universe.
Yep.
In terms of manifestation, like unconditional love is the purest, but gratitude is one of the in terms of manifestation, one of the highest frequencies, that it like acts like a power up when we can not only feel what we want to manifest and be very present with it. That's another thing,
Yep.
is being very present with the feeling as if it is here now, right
Yep.
now in this moment, even though we do not see the physical manifestation of it. And then taking it beyond that and feeling the gratitude for it. Like, oh, I'm so
Absolutely.
thankful for this, whatever it
Yep.
is, because I feel it right here in the moment. And that is creation.
Yes.
That is creation, is feeling that in the moment with gratitude.
So
It
let's
is.
ask you a question. So I get this, I would say quite a lot from clients. They say, I don't know what I want.
Mm.
So how can, how would you help someone figure out what they want? You know, what they want
Oh,
to manifest.
that's one of the funnest exercises I love to do with my clients, because I get that a lot too. And what I usually do is I use the law of polarity. There's a big chunk in my book that I talk about the law of polarity and like looking at the contrast of what you want and don't want. And so I like usually people, they may not know what they want because they're so focused on what they don't want.
Mm.
True.
So I asked them, well, tell me more about what's going on for you that you don't want. I don't exactly say it in that way, but I'm like, tell me what's going on. What is it? You know, and I dig with them at the don't want.
Mhm.
And then I ask them, okay, well, let's flip the coin. This is when we bring in the law of polarity. Let's flip the coin. What lights you up?
Mhm.
What gives you that feeling of, you think about it and you're like, this feeling of joy, this feeling of like, oh, if this could happen, I would feel so happy. You know, and it may be a little stretch depending on how low they are in the, and I don't mean low in a derogatory way, but where they are in the emotional set point around the don't.
Yeah.
It may be a little stretch for them, but if you can get them to a place to where they start to cultivate the vibration of what they want,
Mhm.
um, then it becomes active in their field, and then we can stretch a little more and a little more. Um, yeah, but it's like allow them to be in the don't want, allow them to feel it, because that's how we transmute feelings. That's how we transmute emotions, is by just being really present with it and feeling it,
Mhm.
feeling the sadness, feeling grief, feeling despair, feeling all of the ugly, yucky feelings we don't want to feel,
Yeah.
until it's like, okay, I felt it, I've acknowledged it. Now what?
Mhm.
Yep.
What's the opposite side of the coin? What lights me up? Oh, this would light me up. You know, whatever it is. But that, like Gina said earlier, it's the feeling. We want to go with a feeling. And it's okay if they don't know what they want, but I guarantee you it's because they're focused on what they don't want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they feel, like you said, they're in that loop, um,
Mhm.
which is just a pattern that we just keep repeating. We do it over and over and over. And we're not even conscious of it, I think, sometimes. That's what happened to me. I became really conscious of some of my loops. And I was like, as I was
Yeah.
reading,
Yeah.
Um, I love your outline format. I love the steps. Do you want to talk about those a little bit? You know, maybe I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to like direct where you're going. Um,
Yeah.
it's just like
Yeah.
there's so much meat that I want our
Yeah. I don't mind talking about them. Essentially, um, it's this: identify your fear,
Mhm,
identify and feel your fear,
mhm.
allow your fear to have its process. It's not pretty, but be with it. Be with it like a child. Be with your fear as though you would be with a child who's upset,
Yeah.
and just allow it to have its tantrum,
Mhm.
you know, just allow it to to be what it is and feel it fully. And then once that's done and you're not feeding it, because that's the trick. When we get into the loop, it's like feeding it with thought forms, and then fear comes back. But if you're just very present and you're just observing it in your body and allowing it to travel around in your body, whether it's in your heart, and you're breathing through it, that's important too. Breathing it out, releasing it through your breath, being very intentional with the breath to help release the fear. And then once that is done and it's waned, which it will, because an emotion only has, I think it's a 90-second lifespan. So once it's waned, then you're using the law of polarity. You're identifying, okay, what's the opposite of this that lights me up? Identification. So the way I present it in the book is it's called the Conscious GENIUS system. It's like gauge where you are. Have to look at it.
It's brilliant.
Gauge.
It's really brilliant.
Let me find it. Okay. Establish what you want. Gauge, establish, nail the solution. So when you're nailing the solution, you're like, okay, I've established what I want. And now I'm going to align not only, like what Gina was saying, not only my frequency, my feeling, but I'm also going to align my daily action with that. You're going to that's how you activate the vibration. Then that leads to the initiate the action. So genius or I. Up level your intention. And so I'm glad this came up because this is what I feel is pretty important in terms of living one's greatest potential is using the method of increase. Also, what is it called? The law of equal exchange. So when we use the method of increase and along with the law of equal exchange, we are putting out there what we want to receive. The law of equal exchange states that whatever we give, we have to receive by law, by universal law, greater or equal value. And the same goes with what we receive, we're giving greater or equal value. So with this method of increase, we're applying that to our daily activities. If you want to receive support, you're giving support.
Yes.
And so that amplifies the manifestation.
I love that.
Yeah.
And then, so that's up level you. And the last one is secure your success. And that is through the application of gratitude, the vibration of gratitude. Gratitude, going into that place of feeling gratitude for it is done, it's delivered, it's here, it's now, I'm living it, I'm breathing it, I'm being it. That secures the success. And I want to simplify things even more. That if you are setting the intention every day from the moment you wake up to live your greatest potential, all of that falls naturally into place. That's all you have to do.
Becomes a new pattern.
Yes.
Yeah. It becomes a new pattern.
New pattern, right.
So, Natasha, two things. First of all, if you have extra time on your hands, you might want to create a workbook with that to go along with that to keep people engaged and on track. Okay, that's okay.
Thanks for the tip.
What I love about that is I always send my clients home with homework because you can't come and see either any of us, you, me, Colleen, they can't come in for an hour and lay on a table,
Right.
have their energy reworked. We do the post counseling, whatever, just to go over the session. They have to take it home and again put it into action. Like if they want to keep
Exactly.
changing their energy and having it stick, they have to do stuff at home.
Right.
And that's the biggest. So I always know who's serious about it, because the ones that come back and they'll listen, they'll do meditations, whatever it is, we all know intuitively what people need, right? But
Right.
when people are really trying to change patterns in their life, and that's most of the people that come to us, they have to do stuff at home. You can't just leave and come back a month
Right.
later and
Right.
think that, okay,
Right.
well, I felt great when I left, but it didn't, I'm back to where I was. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I bet you
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. That's why it's one of the steps.
Exactly.
Initiate action. That's what
Yeah.
I mean. Speaking to the audience right now, um, the three of us ladies are where we are because we did the work, right? Am I right?
100%.
We did the
100%.
work, and it wasn't always easy.
And we continue to do the work.
And
We
we
It
continue to
hasn't
do the work.
stopped, right? Because it
No,
doesn't stop, right?
I see my own energy therapist at least twice a month.
We have to.
So
we have
yeah,
to. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
There's something I want to read if you don't mind. This really this was this kind of tied it all in. You gave us the steps. We didn't even talk about jumping timelines yet, but this, I love this part in your book. So you answer the question, what exactly is your highest timeline? Okay.
Mm.
And we're coming from the given that we believe that we are a soul, right? And so here it is. This is what you say. Your highest timeline is the life purpose that your soul signed up for before you incarnated into this lifetime.
Wow.
Humans do not incarnate to suffer. We
Mm,
come to learn and expand universal consciousness, but we unconsciously choose to suffer. So when you set an intention to align with your highest timeline, you are choosing to do what your soul agreed to do. It's what you came for after all. That's what we came here for.
Wow.
That,
absolutely. Yeah.
that perspective shift is, it healed me.
Mm,
It 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 reminded me of who I am. It reminded me of my purpose. And it reminded me that suffering is a choice. My God. Now we
Mhm.
all come from trauma. We all suffer. We all know what that feels like. But we do not have to stay there, right?
yeah.
Um,
Usually the suffering, it can be summed up in this. We suffer because we're doing everything to avoid what we fear.
mm.
Ooh,
Wow.
girl.
It's the fear of stepping out of our comfort zone.
Yeah.
It's the fear of stepping into the unknown
Yeah.
and not knowing what to expect. It's that fear of stepping. But when you, and I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, this new realization, this is 2.0, okay? Energy Alchemy 2.0 today. This new realization around living, I want to expand on this highest timeline. When we apply ourselves daily, I am here to live my greatest potential. I may not know what it is right now, but I'm going to trust that divine source, creator, spirit, God, whoever it is, whatever name you use, is going to show me what that is.
Yes.
Because that, when we are willing to step out and allow that to unfold for us, we expand. We expand in our awareness, in our consciousness, in our vibration, in our frequency elevates. And that is what 5D New Earth is all about, is that
Wow.
expansion in frequency. But not only that, we're expanding the consciousness of the universe.
Yes.
So when we're like making that statement to Creator, to the infinite intelligence, I am here to live my greatest potential. Show me.
Oof.
Show me what to do.
Mm-hmm. Natasha,
Do you feel how the fear just,
Gone.
it's gone.
Because it's
It's
the truth.
it's
gone.
comforting.
Yeah,
It's very
it's like,
comforting.
I got this.
Mm-hmm.
I got this. No matter,
Yep.
like the fear of the other shoe dropping
Yeah.
isn't even there. It doesn't
Yep.
even register on the radar.
Yep.
It's like you're waking up in the morning, whoa, I'm gonna live my greatest potential today. Plain and simple. Oh my gosh.
There's
You
no
guys,
better way to wake up.
I've been I have been doing this for the past like this new download came about 3.5 weeks ago. I've been applying it to my own life. And it's a game changer, you guys. And this is where we're headed. This is where infinite intelligence wants to take us, divine creator wants to take us in this direction as co-creators. And it's necessary. It's necessary because of what is coming.
Yeah.
What is coming. We cannot play our little fearful selves hiding in the corner, although we're still worthy of love to receive when we're there.
Right. Yeah.
But we can't play that with what's coming. And that is this meeting of consciousness with these other amazing galactic beings that are in our hood.
Yes.
Natasha, I'm just curious. What are your thoughts on people that are stuck in a loop of like addiction that have hard time getting out? I'm just kind of curious because Kolein, we've met, we've known people, who have been in that predicament. Now, one person that we interviewed, he, after 14 years, got himself out through a spiritual way. But with the other people that we might work with, what are your thoughts on that? Because sometimes it seems like a dead end.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought this up, Gina, because this is really important. We have an epidemic of drug-induced escape.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about this in the book.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so first of all, personally, what I would do is a lot of the reason why people open themselves up, open their fields up to that is because they're wanting to fill the void of the loss of love,
Yes.
that love
Yep.
isn't present within them. They
Mm-hmm.
cannot feel, they have this big open energetical wound, if you will, that
Mm-hmm.
needs love. And they're trying
Yep.
so desperately to escape that.
Yep.
So that's why they open up their fields to try to fill that or distract themselves from that.
Yeah.
And so, first of all, what I would do personally is I would pray for unconditional love to surround them because that's what they're needing. That's the core need.
Yep.
Usually, they've had a lot of trauma in their childhood, and that's what is created that void, that wound. So I ask for Creator to bring in unconditional love, and then I go to work. I roll up my sleeves and I start to clear out all of the waywards, all of the entities that have attached to that being's field, that have implanted themselves into their field, I start clearing all of that out. And once you do that, you start to notice a shift.
Okay.
But those are the two key steps before anything else. Like, or not putting, I mean, they can go to rehab, of course, but it's bringing in love, requesting for a creator to bring in unconditional love, fill those voids, and then clearing all of the entities that are driving, that are being the voices, the forces. It's a spiritual battle.
Oh, it
Yeah.
is
It's a spiritual
100%.
battle for that soul.
Yeah.
So it's like clear all of that out, send all of those things to Creator's light, and then just inquire, okay, what's next, Creator? Show me what's next.
This is the
Yeah.
part, if I could stop for just a second. This is the part that people do not realize that they are opening themselves up to and being
Mm.
subject to, another realm, right? Of darkness, entity,
Mhm.
disease, even, right? Things, darkness being poured in. I do know several people who lived with pain in their body, and when they were delivered from the entity, the pain was gone, the disease was gone,
Mhm.
trauma was
Right.
gone. I mean, it was completely,
Right.
they had to literally regurgitate it. I know two people who had to literally physically like vomit it out. And
Yeah.
um, people don't realize that when we open ourselves to that, um, they call it spirits, right? They call alcohol
Mhm.
spirits, right?
Yes.
um when they say the drug induced state, the high, you're literally opening yourself up to you don't know what, right? It's a vulnerability. And if people are doing it because of that void of love, right, then that opening, that's a gaping hole that's just ready to be filled, right, with that
Right.
darkness. Yeah, so yes, I just wanted to stop there because I think people don't realize a lot of times, um, and even sometimes in controlled environments when that,
Mm.
right, is
Yeah.
happening. Um, yeah, yeah, and that love, that unconditional love, and praying for that, and surrounding that person, and seeing them in their pure and holy state, right? Um,
Yeah.
In their soul state, like we were talking about before, when that part that you read, Colleen, it's like, yes, seeing them in that they're a soul incarnated here, not to suffer.
yes,
They're the same as us all. They're not here to suffer, but there is this very grand overshadowing of the disconnect to divine love that overrides that
Yeah.
understanding. So it's like, let's bring that back. Let's bring that back into the vicinity of their soul so
yes,
that they're reminded why they're here, so that they're reminded that they can and will, upon their choosing, live their greatest potential, live, experience their highest timeline.
yeah,
Wow.
beautiful, beautiful.
Are our timelines, are they predetermined or can we change them if we want? Like,
This is an excellent question. Um, so this is just what I believe
mhm,
in working with timelines. I believe that if you believe that your timeline is destined,
then it will be.
then it will be. I
Mhm.
also believe that, there are certain things that our soul, like I mentioned in the book, signed up for. So
Yeah.
you could, in a sense, say that, yes, that's a destined timeline. Um, I would refer it more to an agreement.
Mhm.
I've agreed to do ABC during my lifetime. Um, I think timelines, for me, timelines are more like Hmm. Like what sort of activities? There's this path with this type of activity, and there's this
Right.
path with this type
Yes.
of activity. So which one do I resonate with the most?
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of what I'm curious about, like with what your thoughts are. Like there could be a timeline where, your ending is at the age of 40 versus a timeline where your ending is at the age of 90 or 80, so
Yeah,
there's kind
yeah,
of like choices and different ways that we can shift to change that timeline of what.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, there there's there's two ways to look at that. There can be, okay, my soul is, and that's why I distinguish between timelines and agreements.
Mhm.
What we soul agreements, what we signed up, because the soul could have signed up with, okay, I'm going to choose to transition at this age. And there's no shifting the timeline
Right.
that changes that
Right.
because your soul signed up
You've
to do that.
agreed to that. Right.
Yeah. Um, but then there's the timeline of fear. I'm going to die at 40 because I have breast cancer or prostate cancer. So I'm going to die at the age of 40. And it's driven by this fear of dying. But if you shift that away from the fear, then you've shifted that that belief of dying
Yeah.
at the age of 40.
Yeah.
You see the
I
distinction
understand
between
that. Yep.
those?
I
Yeah.
understand that. I get that. Yep.
It, and it for me it funnels down to the adage of free will, right? We have free will. Our soul
Yeah.
has free will. We can choose. I mean, at any point, right, in this 3D form, I could get up and just walk out of the room, right? I mean,
Right.
I have free will. And this is the power that I love. And it's, you mentioned in the book too, it's that we become empowered when we realize that we can actually make these choices for
Right.
ourselves, right? That we can actually design, our lives, our relationships, our
Yeah.
situations here. We can
Yes.
literally design them,
Right.
have them manifest um, in that highest potential of who we are, the purpose of who we are.
Right.
It's such a door. It's like a door like flinging open. It's like beautiful French doors, on a balcony in the sunshine. I mean,
Right.
that's what it feels like.
Mm.
It doesn't feel like a knock. It doesn't feel like I have to
Mm.
No.
unlock it or it's stuck.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It
Yeah.
feels like it just flung open.
Yeah.
So free, so beautiful. I mean, I'm going to be promoting this book, so everybody get ready.
Oh, thank you.
It
Thank
really
you.
spoke to me, and we didn't talk much about your background or your history or anything like that, but I think people, when they read it, they get a feel for kind of where you've landed thus far, on your journey. And already you're already in another place. You probably have another
Mhm.
book or workbooks or something.
A workbook, yes.
Yeah, yeah, I love the idea of a workbook, but there is another book in motion. I'm in research mode right now, and this book actually came before the Way of Energy Alchemy came about. Um, it has to do it is a spiritual novel,
Mm,
but it's like for personal growth, spiritual growth, but it reads like a novel, and it's interaction with interdimensional beings as well as higher dimensional beings. Um, so yeah, there's more, there's
Wow.
more coming. Um, and I think that, and this one has been on my heart for a number of years. Um, it's sort of like an instruction book on how we can interact with these interdimensional, higher dimensional, galactic beings in our vicinity. And like just coming to the awareness and acknowledgement of them, and then sort of like where humanity is, through the learning process, the trial and error of being at a kindergarten level in our interaction with these beings. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Well, it looks
there's
like we got
that.
to schedule another podcast.
I want to hang out with you more often,
Yeah.
Natasha.
Bring it,
Let's
bring it.
have
Hey,
every week.
you live closer.
I do. I live closer to you now. I know you have to
I can
come and
feel
visit.
it too.
Oh my gosh.
Where are you at, Natasha?
I'm in Ashland, Oregon.
Oregon. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I looked it up, the drive. I think it was like I can't remember what it is
Oh
now.
yeah, I've looked it up a number of times. It's like a 22 or 24-hour
Yeah,
drive,
yeah.
Is
something like
that
that.
it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. But a
That's
lot closer than when I lived across the country,
it.
Yeah, you both have to come and visit. Oh God. We'll have to figure out, maybe we can collaborate on something. I don't
That would
know.
be
Oh, that would be
fun.
so fun to be in the same room with you ladies. Oh my goodness. We would probably
We would
burn
raise
the
the roof.
structure down with our vibration.
The people driving by, they'd see it just
Yes.
glowing.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
I love it. This has been wonderful.
Yes.
Every,
Interesting.
everybody who is watching and listening, please, we will put a link in the description. Please, I encourage you to get this book. It can be sort of like this beautiful, gentle, loving guide that is practical, that gets us from point A to point B when so many of us feel stuck in that loop.
Yeah.
I came out of a loop just reading it. I mean, I literally
Wow.
came out. The universe spoke to me. I turned the page and I was like, I literally burst out laughing because I was free. I was free of something. And it's just amazing. I would like you to close and Gina to close with some final statements. But one thing I want to say as my final statement is I have now on my computer, and I'm going to put it kind of around your beautiful little three phrases. I can, I will, I am.
Mm.
And
Wow.
it's
And
just
add to that, living my greatest potential.
yes, living my greatest potential. Yes, beautiful. Um, yeah, so anything else, Gina, Natasha?
Yeah, this was just it was a wonderful conversation, enlightening, and I
Yes.
can't wait to see what's to come.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, ladies, for having me on. And until I get the workbook out, which I'm seriously considering, that's a great idea. Until I get that out, I do have a couple of packages that I offer programs. I have a 21-day intensive for those people who
Ooh,
have read the book and just need a little extra one-on-one,
that's
one-on-one
awesome.
time
That
to
is
help them.
awesome.
It's specifically designed to help pull someone out of that cause reaction feedback loop where they feel stuck. And then I have a 90-day, what do I call it? 90-day timeline transformation. It's like shifting your timeline 180 to what you want to do in terms
Wow.
of living your greatest potential. I think it's a total of 7 sessions, ongoing email support. Um, I'm helping you shift your frequency to a new timeline so that you're living with your inner authority
Mhm.
and your greatest potential.
Wow.
Wow. That's
You,
great.
so you
Love
will,
it.
are those on your website? I mean,
Yes,
okay.
yes. So go to natashasol.com. If you go to the scheduling page, there's more information about those programs there. The 21-day intensive and the 90-day timeline transformation.
Wow.
Well, beautiful.
Awesome.
I will include those links for everybody. Natasha, honestly, thank you. We could have
Thank you
gone
so
on
much.
for hours.
Oh, thank you. This was such a pleasure. I love you both. Thank you so much for what you're doing for humanity through this podcast, bringing people together. It's so necessary at this time. And
Thank you.
the nourishment, what you're feeding to the collective is priceless. It's priceless. So thank you. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
service.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you,
All right.
everybody, for watching.
Have a good night.
Have a good night. We'll see you again soon.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.